to my channel. So this will be the second last chapter for this subject. So today we're going to talk about investigative reporting. By looking at the title, we already know that we're doing an investigative report, which is sometimes can be considered in a crime report and so forth and so on. Right, without further ado, let us begin. Okay, so first of all, we need to understand what is investigative reporting. Well, investigative reporting is that we are report on materials that someone is trying to hide. For example, when you talk about crime and when you talk about the misbehave of someone, so the things that someone is trying to hide it out. So we, as a reporter, we are trying to digging that thing out, and we try to report that to the public. So that kind of report is known as investigative reporting. Right. The second point is that the reporters will find the materials or information on their own. They will not be depending on any sources of information that have been prepared for them or that can easily taken from any sources. So the reporters need to have their own ways in finding the informations and finding the sources in order to create a very good investigative report. Okay, and then the third point mentioned there relating to the second point is that the information we get or the reporter get is not a leaked material, so it is something new. So that makes a reporter different from one and another, because we found something that has not been leaked and we're trying to report that out. But there is a consequences by doing this, because you need to be prepared with the risk that you need to be facing on. For example, if you're reporting on a crime and then you found something in a crime scene, you were dealing with the cops, you're dealing with the criminal itself. So there are lots of consequences and risks that you have to take on, right? And then investigative reporting is something that bringing the news value, because it is something new that has not been leaked out yet. So by doing that, you bring your name up, okay? And it must have a very deep investigation. You need to consider every aspect. You need to be very focused. You need to be very systematic. You need to pull in all the information and link all the dots together. You need to solve the puzzle, actually. Okay, that is why sometimes there are reporters who work with the cops, because they are trying to solve the case together. However, this investigative reporting, they are time consuming, because it is not easy to find something that has not been reported out. It is not easy to find something that has not been leaked yet. So it is time consuming. So it can take about a few months, few years, or it might not be settled as well. Okay, so there are few risks and consequences that need to be fixed by the investigative reporter. Right. Now, not only that, the reporters also deals obstacles in gaining the information, because they are dealing with a lot of there are different kinds of parties that involved in the stories. Okay, there are criminals, there are cops, there are maybe big names are also involved. So maybe in getting the information, in obtaining the information, you will face with the obstacles. For example, if you're talking about you want to expose about the Malaysia government, for example, definitely you get obstacles in gaining the information, because it is something that is very, very, very confidential. So it's really hard to do this, okay? And it's very limited to certain areas, because if you're trying to digging out things and you're trying to settle or solve a bigger issues, then that will be quite impossible, because each of the information is really limited to certain areas. Not only that, you will be dealing with many sources, as I mentioned before, okay, and you might be in danger as well, So at the end, you need to fully explain the story so that the public know what is happening, because you need to know that you were actually representing the public to um, to explain the full story about what is really happening nowadays. Okay, and you are the one who need to understand the whole story. If you misunderstand the story and you interpret the story differently, then the public will get the information differently. So that is the importance of becoming an investigative reporter. Now, what is the characteristic of investigative reporter? As you know, when we want to become an investigative reporter, first you need to be very enthusiastic, because you need to know, you need to have a passion in doing it, because you are trying to digging out the information. You're going to deal with a lots of people. You're going to face a lot with different obstacles. So you need to be very enthusiastic, and need to be very passionate with what you're doing. Second of all, you need to be very hardworking, because you have to dig in all the information that you can get so that you can deliver it to the public. Number three, you will need to be highly competitive. Why? Because it's not only you were the one who tried to dig on or investigate the case, but there are lots of reporters out there who try to get the information as well. So you need to be very highly competitive. You need to be very motivated. Okay, proactive, one step ahead of anyone else. So that's why you need to be very highly competitive, because you try your very best to gather all the informations and try to connect the dots and trying to solve the puzzle. So you need to be very proactive on that. And definitely number five, you need to be very energetic, because you need to move around, you need to meet new people, you've got to get a lot of sources. So that is why you need to be energetic. And last but not least, you need to be balanced and fair. By the time that you reach the conclusion of the case, you cannot be biased. You need to report on based on the balance and fair. You need to report based on evidence and information that you gained. Okay? Right. Now we're talking about the source of investigative reporting. There are a few sources that you can get. As an investigative reporter, the first one is the beat. The beat, which means that the area covered by the journalist. So you need to have a very good connection with your colleagues or people around you in the same area to help you in giving you information. Okay. Number two, you will need to have a very good tips or known tipster, which is someone who know the story, or someone who is not connected to the case but know the story. So sometimes there are persons who are not reported in the media or reported by the cop. Every cop has their own what we call source, their own some like detective like that. So you need to have that kind of person in help you to get the story. Number three, this is very important, intuition. Intuition means that our feelings or our senses through our experience. Some of us might have intuition by saying that, oh, there is something wrong with the crime scene, or oh, there is something wrong by the report by someone and someone, because that intuition or the feelings or the senses that we feel is coming out through the experience, coming out through the along the journey of the information collection. So we really need that intuitions. Okay. Number four, you look at the patterns, which is the story flow and the characteristic. And then number five is based on file, which is the past investigation. This is also very important, because past investigation might help you in connecting the dots. Maybe some of the reporters before this, or might be some of the detectives before this, they are missing. There are things that they have been overlooked. So based on that past investigation, it is also a good source of investigative reporting. Right, how can we perform investigative reporting? There are two ways of it. First, we're using interviews. Interviews for example, you want to interview the tipster, or you want to interview the sources, you want to interview the whoever is connected to the case. Okay, so interview is very important. Number two, you're going to use a report, for example, the files from the past investigation. Okay, so talking about the records, there are a few types of records that you need to understand. First is the law entitles the public to see. Some of the records were publicly shown to the public, and then there are also records that prohibits the public to see, and the last one is those who not mentioned in the law. So when you gain this information or you get these records, it is very important for you to give it to the public. However, there are certain ways on doing this so that you're not getting caught and you're not getting sued, you're not getting blamed for what we call expose it. So you need to be very careful with whatever you're doing. Okay. Types of interview, there are two types of it. First is informational, and the second one is confrontational. So informational is when we want to get information from someone who is not the actual target of the investigation, someone who can provide us with a very certain facts that we can use, or the leads that we can use in writing the report. And then we also have a confrontational interview where we interview the target. Okay, we let the target to comment on the information that has been collected. If we say that someone had been arrested, you want to interview them, they are the actual target because they were accused with something. Okay, so we have a confrontational interview with them. Okay, so we let them comment. Okay. Now we're going to continue. Before this, we're talking about investigative reporting. Now we're going to continue with business and judicial reporting. So, as a reporter, even though you are writing about sports report, you need to also know about business and judicial reporting, because there are some sport cases that have been involved in business and judicial that you need to report. For example, the current profit market for Decathlon, the current profit market for Sport Direct, you need to deliver, you need to report that. And then there are also some cases that have been reported in the court, which is the misbehavior of an athlete, or any misconduct of an event, of an sport organization, for example. So you need to know as well about business and judicial reporting. Now, business reporting process consists of 5 important processes, which is the first one. You need to have a very good intros or leads, okay, which will be based on the basic questions of 5 W's and 1 H, okay. Who, where, when, and what, and one is how is it going, okay. So this intro will give the insight to the reader so that they understand about the business report that you're trying to expose, okay. And then it should have a nut graph. Nut graph is actually where we put in the informations we're going to keep or put in the reason for our audience to keep on reading, so that they won't stop. Some of the audience, they are going to read halfway through, and then they are not interested in reading it anymore, so they're going to put the report aside. So nut graph is very important. Okay, for example, okay, you're trying to mentioning about what happened in last year during profits and sales for Decathlon, and what happens in this year during 2020 due to the pandemic COVID-19. What happens to the sales and profits? So if you can tell this in a very interesting ways, so this is called a nut graph, okay, which is going to keep the audience reading on the report. Okay. Number 3, the sources. The sources is very important because we need to tell the readers where and when the source is available, because the readers need to know where do you get the sources, okay, and how do you get the sources. So put in the sourcing in your report so that the readers or your audience will know about that. And then quotes is also a very important process, where we quoting someone's statement or reporting someone's words, we put it in a report to be as a solid proof or solid source to the story. Okay, and then the last one is growing the story, expansion through the data, through the personality and facts and so forth and so on. So that is 5 business reporting process that you need to understand and know. Okay. Um, what about the judicial reporting process? Well, there are also 5 of it. However, it's quite different with the business. The first one, you need to be prepared. Prepared as in what? You need to do your homework. You need to prepare for your tools in your in the court, and for judicial reporting, you need to prepare your notebooks. Okay, so be prepared. And then you also need to be prepared for what we call uh, unpredictable things that are going to happen, because you are in court, right? So anything can happen there, so you need to be prepared on that. Okay, do your research. Okay, what case are you studying on? Which court are you going to? Who is the one is accused on doing who is the faulty? Okay, so you need to do your research. Okay, and just make a thorough notes in the courts. Okay, um, make a simple notes. Okay, and then note some of the legal terms that is not familiar with us, because we're not from the law schools or what. So there are a few law terms that maybe we don't understand, so you need to jot it down, and you will place, or you will write the report outside the court, because in the court you need to fully listen to what is happening in that current hearing. Okay, don't write in the court, because this will make you mislead on some information. Okay, plus you need to be very focused in the court to hear what is going on is actually right. So that is the judicial reporting process. Well, that is all for investigative reporting, business and judicial reporting. I hope you guys understand and enjoy. If you have any questions, you can simply ask me in a WhatsApp group, or you can just simply place your comment down there. Then don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next class. Thank you.